Hello everybody, welcome back to another FinMeUp Weekly Stock Watch, where we cover the most important stock market news with extra insights and opinions so you can get everything quickly summarized and extra free insights. Today we'll be looking at a few fan favorites: Capital Appreciation, Aveng, Argent, Renergen, Oceana, in the US Apple, and then quickly we'll look at the crypto industry and what's happening there if you are a crypto person. Before we get into that, we've got a very exciting announcement. You've probably heard about FinMeUp, and we've mentioned FinMeUp here and there, but FinMeUp is FinMeUp's pet insurance product, and we are very excited. It is launching this coming week. We've worked really hard on this product, and we are really, really excited to launch it. It is super slick, so stay tuned for that, and you're gonna love it. Let's get into the weekly wrap. First of all, Capital Appreciation, a small cap. It's very well followed. It's a player in the fintech field. They've got various companies. Are basically a company that they buy companies, they connect those companies with their other companies, and then they actually just grow and innovate further with those companies. So they posted revenue growth, some proper revenue growth of 19.7%. EBITDA is actually lower by 6.3%. Operating profit is lower by 8.9%. Earnings per share down by a massive 44.7%, but they managed to increase their annual dividend per share by 10%. So they are actually quite a good dividend payer. They are a company that sits on a lot of cash. That is one of their strengths. And the reason why this earnings per share is down by 44.7% is mainly due to the write-off that they made for GovChat. So we've spoken about that briefly, but basically GovChat, the business just didn't work and they're writing it off. So, that doesn't really impact their current cash position because they already invested, they already operated with that. Those expenses were already accounted for previously. So now they can just write that off and go forward to where they are now. So the company also has diversified revenue streams. That's why they actually saw revenue increase by 19.7%. And they experienced significant growth outside of South Africa. They also have the pending acquisition of Higgo Group, which is expected to bring new opportunities as well as further increase in profit and cash flows. So overall, the write-off of GovChat was disappointing. It was quite a big write-off. It was above 50 million, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a big write-off, which is not great to see. But, they've got other quality businesses. The management is experienced. If you are someone that prefers a dividend-paying stocks, this is one of them. Personally, I sold my Capital Appreciation a while ago. As I've mentioned, I currently only own 3 or 4 stocks. It's actually 3 now, loaded from 4. You can guess that Santova is one of them, as I've spoken about Santova countless times. We actually did a stock savvy video on Santova where we covered Santova in detail, as well as what the management recently said. So that will actually be posted within the next week or two. So stay tuned for that on this YouTube channel. But yeah, Paul, any thoughts on the Capital Appreciation results? Do you own these shares, and what do you think of these results?
Thank you, Higgo. I don't own Capital Appreciation, but it's an interesting company, very interesting. Actually, it's what we call a SPAC in investment, a special purpose acquisition vehicle. And how it works is that via the stock market, you raise money, and then you can invest that money in any way you like. And for Capital Appreciation, they raised money and they chose to invest in these technology companies, especially the point at sale companies. And with a technology company like this who makes small acquisitions, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Yes, you get great opportunities, but you can also have a miss or two, which can really hurt you, like we saw in this case. So especially in tech, small cap companies, new startups can be exciting, and some of them really hit the lights out. I mean, Google and Apple, they were also small companies, at a stage way back when. But then you also get many of them that don't work out. So it's a little bit of a hit and miss scenario. This company, I think it was a little bit of a to its favorite a few years ago, much like Purple or Renergen. Not as exciting as those companies, but pretty exciting. And they actually held up quite well. Of course, the last year wasn't kind to many companies. But overall, the last 3 or 4 years, they've really done quite well. Maybe, John, you can show the 5-year share price growth. So I think, will I invest in this company? It's a bit too risky for me. It's not my cup of tea. but people who did invest did make some good returns. So congratulations if you were a shareholder.
Yeah, just something to that point. They are actually sitting on a very, very healthy balance sheet. They don't have debt and they have a lot of cash. That's why they are able, even though the profits fell this year, they are still able to raise a dividend. They are sitting on lots of cash, low debt. That is great for the current environment we are in, and that's why they were able to do the acquisition of Dariel Group. That is also why they'll probably do more acquisitions or just invest in their existing businesses. They have quite a few exciting businesses, which could really continue to show lots of growth, and that we have now seen that they are expanding overseas. So that is also a good thing for a South African small cap. Personally, I don't currently own shares as it is. But as soon as I start diversifying my investments again after the consolidation and everything, I might look at Capital Appreciation, although it isn't one of my top 5 picks that I'll choose for my personal portfolio. But it's an interesting company to watch. Now, for another FinTwit favorite, Aveng. For the Avengers, Aveng has received 210 million rand in payment relating to the disposal of Trident Steel. The payment will contribute to the group's liquidity and strengthen its balance sheet. As we all know, or those that follow Aveng, they had a debt problem and they needed this liquidity. They needed to start covering the debt, to pay off the debt, and this is a nice liquidity injection. The funds will also support the growth strategies of Aveng, McDonald Dowell, and the Moelmans business. Paul, what do you think of the acquisition and Aveng as it is currently?
Aveng is such an interesting company, and there's a massive turnaround narrative going for this company if they can actually keep it above water. So I actually did some research, Higgo. I didn't know this, but they used to be one of the biggest construction companies in South Africa. They were quite massive. There were a few big players, especially in the lead up to the 2010 World Cup, which was a massive demand for construction companies in South Africa, building stadiums and infrastructure. It was like them, Group 5, Marian Roberts, Wilson and Bailey, and they made a lot of money. And after that, they basically went bankrupt. Long story short, but the share price dropped by over 99% over the last, how many ever years. So, which is actually crazy. And now the last 5 years, they sort of muddled along around 10 Rand a share, which they are now, with some bumps and bruises along the way. So now the big question is, can we see a recovery narrative? Can they return to former glory? Well, maybe not former glory as it used to be in the old days, but this is a company that once was, one of the big players in the country. One of the big problems, Higgo, debt, like you said. And now they've sold off a segment that was quite troublesome for them. And now they can reinvest that money into businesses or segments that are actually doing, well or much better, which is the Moelmans and the McDonald Dowell. So let's see what happens here. It is a FinTwit favorite. People are very curious about this company. And I really hope that it does work out because there is money to be made.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. When there's a lot of debt, there is certainly some risks as well. So I'm not touching Aveng at the moment, but it's going to be interesting to watch how this recovery plays out. Now for a company that I do actually own, it's my second largest position as things stand, and that is Argent Industrial. Now, I'm not really an industrial type guy. I'm more of a tech guy. But I've been following Argent and the story, and it's just... So the reason why I bought Argent in the first place was it's sitting on a PE ratio below 4. Over the past few years, they got rid of their bad businesses and they doubled down on their good businesses that are generating proper cash flow. The management has really managed to steer the ship in the right direction. They are doing stock buybacks. They are paying a nice dividend. And they are quite diversified, and it's just a diversification play for me as well, a bit away from tech, for a company that is quite undervalued, that is growing, and we're going to look at these results now. This is just a trading statement, so we can't give too much insights, but we'll give proper insights once their actual results are out, so stay tuned for that. But their earnings per share is expected to be between 3.80 and 4.46. They are now on a share price of just above 15 Rand. It's It went up about 8% the last week or since the trading statement. So the market realized, wow, this is actually a very, very cheap counter. And that earnings per share increase is between 15.2 and 35.2%. So if we take the average, let's say it's going to be a 25% increase in earnings per share. That is proper, especially for the environment we are in. They also generate some of their earnings from the UK. I think it's around 36%, maybe even more now. And so they benefit from the higher exchange rate. But overall, it looks really, really positive. The trading statement, it's going to be very interesting to watch the actual results. Paul, any thoughts on Argent?
Yeah, congratulations firstly, Higgo. You called it, Josh Viljoen called it, Anthony Clark called it. It went up from 3 Rand to what it is now, 14, 15 Rand. So that's a massive jump. So people made quite a bit of money. What lies ahead is, of course, the big question. Should I invest now? Now, Anthony Clark puts it at 18 Rand a share in the current economic environment. So there is still quite a bit of runway. Of course, if it actually goes there, it might not, it might stabilize. I am doing a stock savvy episode with Josh Viljoen, where he actually explains the company more in detail and his investment case. So you can look forward to that. That's only gonna be here in about 2 to 3 weeks. But I'm personally also looking forward to learn, because I never invested. Unfortunately, this was the one I missed. But I'm happy to see that people made some money.
Yes, just a reminder, if you want to see the Argent stock saver video, the Santova one with myself, or further stock watches like these, remember to subscribe. And if you like, it really goes a long way. Thanks a lot. Let us know in the comment about Argent. Do you follow them or not? And also about Renergen. So let's get into Renergen. What do you think of this deal? The deal is basically Renergen acquired $750 million in phase 2 funding in the form of debt, but there are some conditions that first need to be met before that actually happens. That is a lot of debt. This is a company with a market cap of just below 3 billion Rand. So the debt is far above their actual valuation. But we all knew this was coming. And we all knew that they need a lot of money for phase 2, because phase 2 is like the big dog. That's what they need to generate proper cash flow. But I mean, it's still early days, but at least the funding is secured, or not secured. There's some conditions that need to be met, but it's on the table. So that's a positive sign. The share price reacted really positively, so the market seems to like it. Personally, I'm glad to see it. It means there's progress. It means that big companies, big corporations, institutions are actually seeing the value in the Virginia gas plant, and they are willing to fund the project, obviously with the conditions, but it's a step into the right direction. Really interesting to where Renergen is now. Let us know what you think of this. Are you a Renergen fan or not? Bull or bear? Let us know. Paul, what are you? Bull or bear?
Yeah, that is well, I wanted to say $1 million question, but the $750 million question is whether I'm a bull or a bear, whether to invest in or not. I don't know. Personally, I have invested before. I've sold. Now I'm on the sidelines. And what I do know is that a lot of people are invested. A lot of retail investors are invested in this company. So we can only hope for the best. Phase 1 was like the pre-drinks, and phase 2 looks like they're now getting ready to party. So I, with my whole heart, hopes that this actually works out, because the potential is just so massive. It's like Bitcoin in 2015 or something. It's a massive project should it pan out. But of course, there are so many things that need to go right for this to actually happen. So holding thumbs.
The final JSE company is Oceana Group. Revenue is up by 47.8%, operating profit up by 87.5%, earnings per share up by 238%. Sounds crazy. Capital expenditure was 205 million, which includes investments in the USA, so USA fish meal and fish oil business, and a SA production facility. So lots of investment, lots of capital expenditure. Net debt is up by 3 billion Rand, primarily due to increased working capital requirements and the weaker Rand exchange rate. Paul, any thoughts on Oceana? Do you follow them?
I do follow them. Once again, it's one of Anthony's, he was very bullish on this company for the short term at least, and it actually worked out. So congratulations to everyone who invested. Very cyclical company. So I'm always a little bit cautious when it comes to cyclical companies. They for those of you who don't know, they're the big brand behind Lucky Star. So it's fishing. And with fishing, 1 year you get a very nice year. The next year you struggle. You can't find fish. And there's a lot of other things, like they have certain quotas, managerial problems that we saw at least in the past. They've fixed much of that now. One interesting thing I can maybe add is in South Africa, of course, we are very middle to low LSM groups. There's also rich people here. We have a massive income disparity, but for the most part, South Africa is middle to lower class. So they're very conscious, value conscious of the prices between different protein groups. So you've got chicken, maybe a little bologna, maybe fish. And now the last year or so, the prices of fish has come down a little bit. So they're more inclined, people are more inclined to buy these type of products. And that's what actually happened. So nice volume increase, prices increased by 47.8% revenue from continued operations. That's brilliant results. So for everyone who punted this one, big ups.
Nice. Now let's get into the US with some exciting technology news. Apple. Just what a company. We've said that so many times, but this week they released their $3,499 AR/VR headset. Apple also announced new updates to its watches and phones, but that's secondary. Primary massive announcement is this VR headset. It's been anticipated for super long. We know that Meta has been working on this. For me, I actually saw a comment from Renergen. He's actually one of the mentors, part of the open letter on the FinMeUp app as well. But it's almost like the iPhone moment. When the first two iPhones were released, at that time, it was still like this very expensive thing. It was this wait and see approach. And then, 10 or 15, 20 years later, everybody uses iPhone. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people use iPhones. It's now they can increase prices. You use your iPhone. You buy new iPhones. How they built that infrastructure, that just ecosystem is incredible. Now Meta has VR headsets, which is much cheaper, but lower graphics and lower processing speed. And Apple has higher graphics, higher processing speeds, but you pay much, much more. So my guess is with Apple, it's going to be interesting to see how many people buy these VR headsets, especially now, this first version. It's quite expensive. It's very expensive. I'm not going to buy it. It's just too much money for me. But I wouldn't be surprised in 5 years' time if we see a much better designed version, thinner, better looking, maybe like just normal glasses with all the functionalities, and we might see mass adoption. Once again, there is that argument where people don't really see where VR fits into play, because why would you want to look at a tree with your glasses if you can actually go into the nature and view actual trees and actual birds? And I agree with that, but I agree with VR headsets for games, for watching sports, for watching movies, for attending meetings. I think that's where it's really, really going to be interesting in a few years' time. We actually have a metaverse basket on Easy Equities. If you believe in the metaverse future, you can go check that out, but it's going to be interesting to watch. Crypto. Paul is actually definitely the better Bitcoin knowledge person. So if you have any Bitcoin questions, you can also ask him. That's what I do. But the SEC has sued Binance and its CEO for breaking US security rules. And the SEC is suing Coinbase in the New York Federal Court. So a lot of regulatory actions happening in the crypto industry. But even through this, even after so many things that has happened the past year, the Bitcoin price just seems quite steady. It doesn't seem to be broken by anything. But besides that, what do you think of all of this and for the crypto industry as a whole, Paul?
Cool. So maybe first on Apple. So Apple has now released VR headsets, or it's more augmented reality. So you have your own reality with your normal eyes. Like Evolution, I think, has done a pretty good job, to develop us in a way that everything kind of makes sense and we enjoy what we look at, and our eyes are able to, take in what it takes in. Now you put an extra layer on top of that, and that is augmented reality. That is what Apple now introduced. Meta introduced the metaverse, where you completely go into a new reality, and it's very kind of cartoonish and so on. I always believe that I think that the augmented reality will be the more probable one, which we will adapt as a species going forward. But it's still very, very early days. It's very, very expensive. There's going to be a lot of kinks along the way. So let's see what actually happens. Where are we going to be in 10 to 15 years? That is the question. And I love this meme where it says that when you were young, your mother always told you, don't sit too close to the TV. And now you have the TV like right in your face. So anyway, let's see what happens. Then on crypto, I've always been a crypto bull. Of course, there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of fraud happening, but Bitcoin and what it stands for, I am a fan. Made some money, lost some money. But my big fear is that, banks and crypto exchanges are falling like dominoes at the moment in the US. And that's due to mismanagement, fraudulent transactions, all of that. We must always remember that the assets and the exchange or the institution that facilitates that assets are not the same. You cannot blame cash if your cash is in Absa and Absa goes bankrupt. That is not cash's fault, that is Absa. In the same way, we cannot blame Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it may be if there is a crypto exchange that commits fraud and loses your money or whatever. So guys, be careful out there. We are all going with any new asset class, any new company, Renergen, any new asset class, Bitcoin, there's going to be a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. But I would really recommend anyone to do your own research when it comes to these new technologies and then make your own call. For me, I'm very bullish, but I'm also a little bit fearful at the moment because there's a lot of shenanigans going on, and I don't like one exchange or one bank after the other just imploding. That's not good for us. That's not good for the asset class. That's not good for the reputation of anything. So let's hope there's a nice recovery. Let's hope things stabilize.
It's going to be very interesting to watch. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you have a great week. Can't wait to share FinMeUp with you. It is really, really slick. If you have a dog or a cat, please check it out next week. You're going to be pleasantly surprised. See you next week. Consider liking, really goes a long way. I hope you have a great day. Cheers.